Running up the score.
You're listening to the Running Up the Score podcast. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
All right, Running Up the Score, virtual style. I'm Jerry Napoleonello. He's Kevin Donlin.
I'm Kevin.
Here we go. We're going to get into, we're in week 2 now. Officially, as of Thursday night, Chargers and Chiefs. That was a really good game. But we're going to get into what we learned in week 1 first. And the key, I don't want to say the key word for week 1, but it was somewhat a big part of week 1 was the injuries. Yeah. Injuries played a huge role in week 1, and none bigger than the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, he fractured something in his hand, needed surgery. He's got screws, plates, all that in his hand. Word at first was 6 to 8 weeks. Now it's down to 4 to 6 weeks. But I mean, I guess the real question is, what does this do for the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, how much does this play a huge role in them being able to make the playoffs?
Yeah, honestly, I think it comes down to the resilience of the Dallas Cowboys. They still have a really good defense. Cooper Rush did not play that bad in the few starts he had even last year. I think Dallas could, shock a couple of people here. That division continues to not be too much of a threat outside the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's definitely up in the air now with Dak being out. But obviously Dallas has got to fix the problems with the offensive line. I know they're dealing with injuries, but they have to figure out plays to just get around an ineffective offensive line. Because as you could tell, Elliott and Pollard, just not effective in the running game. And if you're not going to have a running game in this league, you're not moving the football.
Yeah, well, I put out on Instagram, I think it was Tuesday, or it might even been Monday night, just my initial feeling on, what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. Because even before Dak got hurt, they looked horrible. Their offensive line, the wide receivers, everybody looked bad. Dak wasn't throwing the ball well. I think the only bright spot of the Dallas Cowboys offense, and they kept moving away from it, which pissed me off, but was running the ball with Zeke. Zeke looked good in that game, and I don't know why they kept, spreading themselves from that. And, I mean, to have I think he only had 12 carries in the game. It's not going to bode well, especially now without Dak. But just the fact that everything leading up to that moment was a nightmare for the Dallas Cowboys, and they created it themselves. And that's my issue with it. The offensive line issues. Tyron Smith has been hurt the last 3 or 4 years. Okay? Every single year he hasn't finished a full season. So the fact that they went out, they drafted Tyler Smith, that's great. But then you don't have any help on in the guard position either behind Zach Martin. Because then the one guy that you had, Connor McGovern, he gets hurt in the game because now he has to start because Tyler Smith has to move over to tackle. So it's just the depth was not there. They started the season with one quarterback on the roster, and that was Dak Prescott. And they had to bring Cooper Rush off of the practice squad. They had 3 guys going behind Dak into this season. That all 3 get cut. 2 of them get to the practice squad. And, I mean, it doesn't make sense. You need a formidable backup, and we talked about it last week. We talked about it with the 49ers. We talked about it with the Jets. You need that formidable backup quarterback for cases like this. I mean, the Cowboys were lucky last year that it was only one game that Dak was out, and Cooper Rush actually pulled off a miracle. I don't know how he did it. But right now, going into this next game, he doesn't have Amari Cooper out there. It's only CeeDee Lamb. So it's going to be tough. And they're going to have to really lean on Zeke. And that offensive line is going to have to really, block. And especially going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, the best part of their defense is their front line. So that's where it's going to get a little dicey for the Dallas Cowboys. And they better hope that they put the pressure that they can on Joe Burrow and hopefully, force a couple of those interceptions like he had in week 1.
No, absolutely. I think Dallas' defense could keep them in this game a little bit, but when push comes to shove, I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow will be able to do a little bit more in this game. And obviously Cincinnati needing the win desperately as much as Dallas does, it's going to be one hell of a game. But I have to lean the Bengals on that one. We go from obviously losing starters on the offensive line to losing starters other ways than injuries, and that's via trade. And Davante Adams with Aaron Rodgers right now,
it was
clearly struggling without.
It was rough.
Obviously, it was brutal to watch because the one hard part about that game was that there's no doubt that Green Bay was able to run the football.
Yeah.
And when you're able to run the ball effectively and you still can't pass the ball around, it's an alarming situation.
And when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers and you still can't throw the ball, that's an issue. He had earlier in the game, he had a 70-yard touchdown pass that was literally dropped by his wide receiver.
Yeah, it's the rookie third-rounder Watson, who didn't play a single moment of training camp. Yeah. Now, you got guys in your team that are not up to game speed. Obviously, he beat the defense.
Yeah.
But this kid hasn't been practicing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you got him out there running 75-yard routes.
Yeah.
I put that more on the coaching staff. Obviously, this kid wasn't ready to get back out there yet. He missed a lot of time. And if you're going to miss a lot of time, especially as a wide receiver where, game speed and getting your legs underneath you being so important, and then obviously the focus of catching the football. And, for Green Bay, the struggle was real. Minnesota played well. I'm not going to downgrade how well their defense played in that game. They played very well. The front line was very good. They really do have a solid front seven there in Minnesota. They are the clear-cut favorite at this point now to win that division. So it's a bad loss for Green Bay, but it's an impressive win for the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers got to find a way to clean this up. But, we go from one former division winner to the rest of them in this league, aside from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's because each and every one of them failed to get a win.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of. It was a crazy week 1 in the NFL this year.
Yeah, going into that Sunday night game, it was whoever wins that game is the only division winner to win in week 1. Week 1 was and you know what? It's the same every year. And it was a perfect example because, what was it, last week or the week before when we were talking about betting, you specifically came out and said, don't bet week 1 because it is the hardest week to bet. And it's the truth. Look at what happened. I was in a survivor pool, and I told you off air, I was in a survivor pool with like 25 guys. 3 of us were left in week 1. 3.
I had 4 picks with 4 different teams.
Yeah.
And I'm not even focused on the pick this week because I'm out of them.
Yeah.
So after winning it last year, I am officially out after 1 week with 4 picks.
Yeah.
And losing on 4 different teams. Obviously, I didn't go against the New York Jets, which was my formula last year to winning it, and I probably should have listened to it going into week 1 of this year.
Yeah. It's a very weird week. We went into it you never know in week 1. It's always, on paper, this team looks great. On paper, this team looks like crap. But when it comes down to it, you have to play on the field, and that's what ended up happening. And it wasn't a good week for anybody betting. Some people bet well if you know what not that if you know what you're doing, but just if you're lucky, because it was a terrible week to bet, and it was just a hard it's a hard one to pick. And
it was pretty brutal, just like I advertised.
And basically, if you want to go by our picks, you might as well fade our picks. So when we put our picks up for Sunday, fade our picks, and you might win. I haven't even really checked. I haven't checked our record from this past week, but I don't think it was good because my 3 picks, I think, won 1. So it's It was a tough week for betting, and I mean that's why I don't get paid to do it. So fade my picks if that's what you want to do. By all means, I am not offended by you fading my picks. So going on to it, it was just funny because this kind of goes hand in hand with the Thursday night game. We've been talking about, obviously, because we talk about the hobby and the way that the hobby hype is, and you look at a lot of people going into the hobby or that aren't part of it. They think it's absolutely insane to see these rookie quarterbacks, going for higher prices than some of these veterans that are great. Basically, like a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Like, why is his his hype down? And to be honest with you, I really don't know why. I really don't know why. And I'm guessing if that's, I'll guess and say that it's because he lost Tyreek Hill and they thought that was going to be a difference. Patrick Mahomes week 1 said, "Nuh-uh, that ain't no difference. I don't need Tyreek Hill. All I need is Travis Kelce, and I tell you, I'll put up 40 points." And that's what he did week 1. And then going into Thursday night, then he was like, all right, well, you think that Justin Herbert should have more hype than me? Nah, it's not going to happen. I'm going to go out and win a game. And that's what he did. Thursday Night Football, it was very highly, I mean, to have it in week 2 was so highly anticipated. To have Herbert and Mahomes going at it, the Chargers, the Chiefs, two of probably the better teams, if not the best teams in the league, very early. I mean, we'll get into our overreactions, but very early. I mean, you look at those two teams. Those two teams are definitely teams that could be on track for a collision course in the AFC Championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think Amazon knew what they were doing with them premiering with that game. Game definitely didn't go as expected. I thought there would be more scoring in that one, but the Chargers defense is for real. The Chiefs defense continues to be effective. These are two very, very good teams. It was very entertaining to watch. But obviously Justin Herbert with a miscommunication on a red zone attempt, which he doesn't have many of those, and obviously a tired tight end, clearly. And it led to obviously a pick six, a very important pick six, and definitely a big factor in determining the winner of the game.
So we'll get into some overreactions, okay? After week 1, obviously we're technically in week 2 now, because this is Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon actually. So here's some overreactions that I've gotten from sportingnews.com. The first one that they went with: Trey Lance is a bust, and the 49ers need to bench him for Jimmy G. What do you think about that overreaction? I think that was a very big overreaction, because you can't go and say, all right, Trey Lance is a bust, because did anybody see the weather conditions of that game? I mean,
no, obviously.
You barely could even see the game on TV, let alone, Trey Lance actually being able to throw the ball. So it was just a sloppy game. That's a game that if the Bears were able to play in that condition for the whole season, they might have a good record.
No, 100%. They, I give credit for the Bears in that one. I think that was one that everybody wrote them off in that one. And, they kept at it. They were down multiple scores in that game and just kept fighting. Justin Fields, to give a lot of credit to. This is someone I was actually downgrading with those rookie quarterbacks. He was probably my lowest of all of them, including Davis Mills. But he has proven me wrong. That was a great outing by him. That San Fran defense is no joke.
Yeah. And
that the weather conditions were no joke as well. So as much as you want to use the weather conditions as an excuse for Trey Lance, it was obviously more of a credit to Justin Fields to be able to perform like that under those circumstances. But obviously, from Trey Lance's perspective, your first start and having conditions like that, it's not ideal. And unfortunately, I think it was just a little too much for him to handle in the very going. But I think this is a learning curve for him, and you just move on from here. But it's definitely way too soon to write him off.
Yeah, and losing Elijah Mitchell mid-game as well didn't help, and we'll get into that when it comes to fantasy and hobby talk.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one. Here we go for another one. Their next one was Aaron Rodgers can't save these Packers with another MVP run. So this one I kind of agree with. I think overall this team, this offense, they're underwhelming. And I don't know if Rodgers is going to be able to have an MVP run, because there's not that one guy on this team that you're going to be like, all right, I can just stick with this whole time. Because even his tight ends, they're okay. It's not like anything great. He just doesn't have, and Davante Adams, you could say is the best wide receiver in the league. So not having him, no matter what, if the team was, if the defense was bad or they were down a lot, like he could always go to Davante Adams, boom, 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 and get down the field, and he just doesn't have that. I mean, you have a guy like Randall Cobb, who's old. You got a guy like Romeo Doubs, who's young. You have Christian Watson, who really didn't play much. Sammy Watkins, old as well. It's a very up and down team, and you don't know where the next guy is going to be able to step up for the Packers. Like, who's that guy going to be? And do we think that Aaron Rodgers could actually save this team? I think if someone steps up and starts playing well at the wide receiver position, I think possibly. But, it is Aaron Rodgers, so we can't really, be too down.
I'm not writing off this offense at all. I think it's one of those where I saw them running the ball really effectively. I feel like this game was more on their defense, which has been highly regarded going into the season. They have a lot of guys returning and not a lot of holes on that defense, but I saw plenty of room between Justin Jefferson and anybody in that secondary, and that's a lot of credit to Justin Jefferson, but that's also, we're talking this guy's 25 yards downfield and there's no pass rush. So I kind of fault Green Bay's defense more for that week 1 loss because I thought they ran the ball well. They obviously weren't able to finish some drives, and it obviously cost them the game, so the offense is definitely not fault-free here, but the defense definitely gave up some pretty big plays, primarily to Justin Jefferson, and Green Bay just couldn't keep up. You're not really trying to rush your offense at any point in the NFL. I think any offensive coordinator will explain that to you. You do not want to be in a hurry-up mode because that's where mistakes happen. Mistakes did happen, and Green Bay definitely couldn't look back from that. But I definitely don't write this team off. Who are they playing week 2?
The Packers are playing the Bears in week 2.
Yeah, so that's a game of bounce-back possibility for them.
Absolutely.
Obviously, lean the Packers on that one. They still have that defense. They still have that running game. Chicago played a great game week 1. Obviously, they want to build off the momentum there. It should be a good one, but I'm going to lean Green Bay on that one, and I definitely don't see them slowing down.
It's Sunday night, too, that game. So the next overreaction, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense are better without Tyreek Hill. I don't know about better, but they're just – maybe they're not as explosive, but they're still a great offense. That's how I'll put it.
They're steady.
Yes.
And they're able to, make first downs. Guys are stepping up. Guys that we had forgotten about in this league. Guys like Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I saw dropping in drafts as well. They kind of have a nice solid 1-2 punch, and it's good to have a 1-2 like that. That's how you keep your backs healthy.
What about Juju?
And Juju obviously a quiet game, but he's another asset and in a group of assets. But for fantasy purposes, I'll stick by what I said. I wasn't really a fan of any pass catchers in this offense, just primarily Patrick Mahomes because of how well he could spread it.
This is a little bit crazy. The Patriots won't ever give Bill Belichick another playoff team. I know you're down on the Patriots offense, but I mean, to say won't ever give Bill Belichick a playoff team, that's a little crazy. I mean, we're talking about the best head coach in the league.
And we're also talking about a gentleman who's been coaching and doing it for a very long time. So, I think the years are limited with him. So I guess that statement is technically correct. on the standpoint of the amount of limited seasons. I really wouldn't be shocked if this guy retired as soon as next year. So
Hey,
it's he's had a great success, but everyone needs to be a family man at some point in their lives. And Belichick's had an incredible run, and he's definitely known as the best coach, one of the smartest men in the NFL has ever seen, let alone, just for his era.
Joe.
My apologies.
No, you go.
No, I'm good. That's pretty much the end of it there.
Yeah. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are headed towards a Super Bowl hangover.
Well, you called it. I mean, that was your bold prediction was that they wouldn't make the playoffs this year. And, by the way their defense was looking the other day, I mean, that's not an offense in Pittsburgh that's too intimidating. And, the defense played primarily pretty good. It was that offense that put them in terrible situations. And I blame that on the coaching staff more along the lines of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's got to stop looking down receivers. I understand having someone like Jamar Chase, but the secret's out. Teams are leaning that way now. And it's no doubt Pittsburgh's a very veteran defense that was able to exploit that and, get a bunch of interceptions. I mean, it wasn't just one or two. It was a lot. And the fact that Cincinnati was still in the game shows that how bad the offense for Pittsburgh is, as more along the credit of giving their defense much credit. I mean, that's a really bad offense they have over there in Pitt. And, for you not to be able to win both games against them is very alarming early on. They'll have to clean it up, and obviously they're dealing with some injuries of their own. So, I can understand that standpoint. But I'm not writing off the Bengals yet.
They somewhat improved their offensive line over the offseason, but it didn't look improved. They gave up 7 sacks. So, and I mean, they only managed 5.6 yards per attempt. So that's not good, when you're talking about the offense for the Bengals. And I think that's going to catch up with them this year. And that's why, they kind of snuck up on you last year. I think that was the team, like you were saying, Jamar Chase kind of snuck up on everybody. Joe Burrow, there was hype around him, but he kind of snuck up. This whole this defense, snuck up on everybody. But I don't see them sneaking up anymore. Like, everybody's on top of it now. Like, all right, this team does not have a good offensive line. Let's exploit that. And Joe Burrow's going to make the mistake. He threw 4 interceptions in that first game in week 1, sacked 7 times. It's just it's hard to get back to the Super Bowl with an offensive line like that if you're going to get sacked 7 times.
Obviously, they're throwing the ball way too much. That's why I kind of fault the coaching staff on that one. I mean, that's a game plan where what your defense will be able to do to a particular offense, and you still find yourself throwing the ball over the place. And they had some success because Joe Burrow had a bunch of touchdowns. Jamar Chase had a bunch of catches.
He fought back.
The only thing I see with that is just the added passing attempts. Peyton Manning put it the best. The Jets, ran the ball threw the ball 59 times week 1. Yeah. I don't think the Bengals were much far behind, and there's no reason to have to throw the football that many times in 1 week. I mean, it's unnecessary. Yeah. It's not a winning formula for football. You got to be able to move the ball, move the chains, and you really primarily have to do that in the ground game. And obviously, you break out a couple of plays here and there. That's credit to the blocking and everything else. So right now, the blocking isn't there for Cincinnati, but doesn't help throwing the ball that much week 1.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson needs to do a lot more than beat the Jets to earn the contract he wants from the Ravens. That's a little crazy to me.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, he's betting on himself, and it's rightfully so. He's a great player. He's a big reason why Baltimore has success in the NFL. I thought the Jets did a great job defensively to try to maintain him, but he obviously he's that good, and obviously a credit to him. I expect him to get paid at the end of the year. Baltimore don't want to pay him. Every Jet fan in America probably wouldn't mind having him, depending on how and what happens with Zach Wilson. So right now, that standpoint needs to be there for Baltimore. They got to pay this man. But right now, they have a lot of great players on that team. That defense is no joke for a reason.
Yeah.
They don't pay that quarterback a lot of money. And obviously, Lamar Jackson's looking for difference-making money. But I always... when it comes to this league, especially with the salary cap, these players need to be more realistic. I'm looking at $300 million contracts. Like, you make money like that, you're not going to have anyone surrounding you. It's kind of similar to something that happened to Russell Wilson in the final couple of years at Seattle. Another example, I think, would probably be Phillip Rivers after he started getting paid in the years he was having with the teams he was having. They were very limited teams.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to throw a good football team out there with a quarterback that you're paying a lot of money to. And unfortunately, these quarterbacks, instead of going out and doing commercials here and there, are looking for all their money to be guaranteed by the NFL. And, it's a good, formula for making money, but it's not a good formula for success in the NFL. You're going to find yourself on the ground a lot because you got no blocking in front of you because you got to pay for those guys as well.
So here we'll go with the last, because the other one is Saquon Barkley and the Giants are a dark horse for an NFC wildcard team. I don't know about that.
We'll see. They were missing a lot of guys, and the fact that they were able to play as well as they did, and keep Derrick Henry from a 100-yard game on 20+ carries. An impressive game for the Giants. They obviously they played their hearts out in this one. Saquon Barkley was effective. If they continue this formula, running the football well and playing good defense, then there's definitely a possibility at the wild card for them.
Last one, Khalil Mack gives the Chargers a Super Bowl winning defense, and I agree with it. I think their defensive line is stacked, and the way that they looked against the Chiefs on Thursday night, I mean, I felt like Mahomes was kind of running for his life a lot, and he was lucky to step up in the pocket a couple of times and make nice throws, but this Chargers defense is dangerous. I mean, between Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Khalil Mack, and then you add like Asante Samuel Jr., this defense, and also J.C. Jackson. Let's not forget that. J.C. Jackson, a lot of people talk about him being the best cornerback in the league. This is a stacked defense.
Yeah, no, the Chargers have a really good one there. I think this is well known. Their odds to win the Super Bowl were lower than I think I've ever seen on the Chargers. I probably called them San Diego again. I'm so used to it. But the Los Angeles Chargers, they play a great game, and they have a great team over there. Yeah. They're definitely a dark horse to win the Super Bowl, let alone make the playoffs. It's a tough loss to take against the Chiefs, but you were in Kansas City. It's a hostile environment. And they were one mistake away from winning that game. Obviously, Joe Burrow doesn't throw that pick. It's a much different game. And like you said, the way Patrick Mahomes was running around in that game, there was no guarantee they were going to be able to score again.
All right, so we got some hobby talk. We got some releases in the coming week. We got Panini Chronicles 2021-2022 basketball. In this box, you'll get 8 cards per pack, 6 packs per box, and you get 12 boxes per case. In the box break, you get 2 autographs. So this is like I said, this is a very fun product because it has a bunch of products. We're looking for plates and patches, timeless treasures, limited, gala, titanium, gold standard, all that. Collect base parallels such as red, blue, 75th anniversary as well. You get the purple, the gold, also a platinum 1 of 1. This is like I said, this is a fun product. I didn't think so in the beginning when I first started getting into the hobby. I was like, it's weird. It's got, all these different products in this one product. But I've grown to actually like this box, and basketball is coming out on the 21st. We also got and also that box is going to go for the nice low price of $300. Now we're going to go on to Donruss Optic. The football version of this was out of this world. Obviously, it also helps to have a draft class like that, but I thought the cards were awesome. This also will be released on September 21st. This is a H2. Now, I have to stress that. This is H2. This is hybrid. So you're getting a mixture of retail and hobby. That is you're just going to get a lower price on it. This is a very low price, I would say, on an H2. But you're getting 10 cards per pack, 4 packs per box, 20 boxes per case. In the break of a box, you're getting 2 hollow prisms, 8 exclusive prisms, and 2 inserts. Each box contains, and you can pull a parallel of a red pulsar, a blue pulsar, and a gold pulsar that is numbered to 10. And now you're also looking at inserts of the following: elite dominators, all-stars, the rookies, lights out, stargazing, and reigning threes. This box is going for the nice low price of $625. Then we're going to go on to Gold Standard. I like this. I like this box. And you're starting to see, as we said last week, the 2022s are starting to come out. So this is a 2022 Gold Standard football. You're getting 7 cards per pack, 1 pack per box, 12 boxes per case. In the break, you're getting 5 autographs or a mem, 2 base or base parallels. You're going to look for rookie jersey autographs of all the top drafted 2022 rookies. You're getting short printed rookie jersey autographs, double, and rookie jersey autographs triple, which feature multiple swatches and parallel to prime, maxed out at a number of 49 and the tag numbered 1 of 1. So this is going to be a fun break. And this is, for football, this is a low price, $490 for Gold Standard. The Immaculate Collegiate Football was scheduled to release the 21st. It is now pushed back to the 28th. That box would go for $849. We will talk about that next week. So now, into more of the hobby talk. Derek Jeter is in some news. And it's not news about baseball. It's in news of sports cards. And I'm interested to see what you think about this. Now, Derek Jeter, he is launching a venture capital-backed platform for sports card collectors in the effort to capitalize on this booming market. The fact that Derek Jeter thinks it's a booming market, cha-ching. Mr. Jeter and other founders of the platform, Arena Club, are attempting to digitize a card trading process. Arena Club said that the collectors will work out of a digital showroom inspecting online versions of trading cards while the company stores the physical cards in a vault. Buyers get a digital proof of claim showing they own a card in the company's vault. Arena Club said they can also request that the card be sent to them in what the company, which launched on Thursday, calls a protective slab. So what do you think about that?
Honestly, Jeter's a household name.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's talking about the booming market of sports cars just shows, that this is exactly the future right now. We've talked about this. You've even mentioned little things like Patrick Mahomes' value going down, but go look up a pack of 2017 NFL sports cards of any kind, and you'll see how much that market's, lacking of a boom. The price of 2000, NFL football cards, Tom Brady rookie year, will speak for itself. It's an insane market right now, and obviously it is at an all-time high. Part of me wants to think that, it's partially a pandemic-filled market. People were stuck in their homes for a while, therefore we're able to look at old cards and things of that nature, things that people wouldn't naturally do if we didn't have a pandemic in this world. So I think it all, the sports gambling being a contributing factor as well, getting more people involved, more people with knowledge on these sports, just primarily people that, weren't sports fans before such pandemic. So yeah. I think Derek Jeter's got the right mindset with this. I think it's a pretty cool concept, and obviously, being a Yankee fan, you being a Yankee fan, we already know how much of the man this guy is, and again, look up his rookie cards as well, and you'll see another booming market as well. Yeah.
So my opinion on it is, I'm only worried because we have a bunch of these. Like, we have a bunch of vaults, like, collectors, which is with PSA and Golden, they have a vault. PWCC has a vault. Like, there's a lot of these, vaults, and, platforms that I'm wondering how this, will play into it, because now it's just you're getting more and more. But it also shows, as you were saying, the booming market. Like, it shows that some of these business guys want to get a part of this. Like, this is, the fact that it's getting that national, spotlight, is
Of course.
a huge thing for the hobby. So,
Absolutely.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Yeah,
I
of
just
course.
wonder how it will play into it with all the other vaults. But we got some other hobby news. The 2020 Joe Burrow National Treasures 1/1 NFL Shield was finally pulled by EastWestCards. Also,
Wow.
we have the 2020 Justin Herbert National Treasures 1/1 NFL Shield, the same card as the Joe Burrow. Just sold, was a BGS 8.5, 10 on the auto, sold at Golden for $1.8 million. Most expensive Herbert card to this date.
That's unbelievable. Good time to sell him before you get hurt. too.
Exactly, right? PWCC also established a $175 million asset-based credit facility led by Whitehawk Capital Partners. So I believe if I read that correctly, they're basically going to be handing out loans for some of these people, in the hobby and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. Once we really look into that more, we'll speak on it more. PSA reopened bulk service level at lower prices, $22. So that's huge when you look at it. But you got to read the fine print. You have to send in 25 cards to get graded, and each card is going to be $22. So they're not dumb in the way that they're doing this. Let's be serious.
Of course.
But I wanted to, before we get out of the hobby talk, I wanted to get into something real quick, and it's kind of personal, like in the hobby for me. I think I'm going to start buying Sky Moore. I think I'm going to start buying Sky Moore cards because you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at that Chiefs offense. I think he could be, I don't want to say a Tyreek Hill, but I think he could be that kind of talent on offense, that speedy wide receiver type. I could see this guy doing well, and I'm starting to look at him on the cheap. I was just looking at, because now his cards are starting to come out, especially with Panini Elite coming out last week. Elite has his autos, and they're in Chiefs uniforms, so that's huge. So I was just in an auction on eBay for his card. That was going for about, I think it was $53 going into like the last 3 hours of that auction. It ended up selling for, I think, close to $100. But still, that's cheap. That's cheap for something like that. I think that he would be more of a, I can see him being more of a hold like throughout the whole season, because I think he'll start playing a bigger role in the offense. And then coming next year, I think it'll be even better. So you just got to get, like, if he just gets more of that, camaraderie with Pat Mahomes, between Travis Kelce getting doubled and other guys like that drawing that attention, I think Sky Moore could really slip through the back. And I think I think he'll have a good season. I think he'll have a good, beginning of his career, and that's why he's a buy in my eyes. Yeah. So
I like it. I mean, I think it's an interesting play without a doubt. I think
because really,
Sky Moore, they're already trusting him to be the kick returner, so obviously it
Exactly.
takes time. But there's a lot of guys there in Kansas City right now, and like I said, I know he was someone that was getting drafted even in fantasy leagues. The hype was there, but unfortunately, there's too many guys there right now. But again, guys don't become all-stars on their rookie year. It doesn't really naturally happen.
That's
I know
why I
we
said
see
it
the
may be a
Jamar
hold.
Chases and the Justin Jeffersons, but it's not as common as you think.
Well, that's why I said, because you're looking at this draft class, and obviously the only other quarterback that you're really looking at is probably Kenny Pickett. And, he's already going for high prices, which is crazy. But, I'm trying to look into, all the rest of the guys in that draft class. And, you're getting, the guys like Jamison Williams. You're looking at those kind of guys that are top wide receivers. And not many people are talking about Sky Moore. And I think Sky Moore is going to have I mean, he's on one of the best, offenses in the league. He's got one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league. It's definitely not far in the thought that, listen, this kid, the hobby could really start, flourishing for him. and for any of his investors. And I think I'm going to start being an investor on Sky Moore. I like it. So before we get out of here, let's talk about some Madden stuff. And then we'll just touch on fantasy football. So this week's releases for Madden Ultimate Team. We have Team of the Week, 90 overall Saquon, 90 overall Champ Bailey, 90 overall Drew Bledsoe. You have Ultimate Kickoff, also had a 90 overall Christian McCaffrey. Then you move on to a 90 overall Von Miller and a 90 overall Brandon Scherf. Then in Legends, you have a 90 overall Cameron Wake, 90 overall Herman Moore, and a 90 overall Ray Nishk. So this was a good week for releases in Madden Ultimate Team. I'm excited about this, and like I said, we're still really we're starting to build those theme teams now. You're starting to see, and right now the best theme team, as per mutt.gg. If you don't know this website, you should definitely check it out. They have everything that all the theme teams, their depth charts, and everything that you want to look for. And right now, it's the New England Patriots with an overall of 87. For theme team, Drew Bledsoe at 90. You got Cordaro Patterson.
How's San Fran?
San Fran, I will give you in a second. San Fran is right now, they are in 85. So they're tied for second. Obviously with you have 89 Joe Montana, 87 Raheem Mostert, 90 Michael Crabtree, 89 Randy Moss. Randy Moss has in every team chemistry. So so it's is there any other teams that you're thinking about that you would, because right now, so the Patriots are 86, Ravens 85, Rams 85. Oh, the Raiders are in 86 as well. The Raiders are in 86 with an 87 Marcus Mariota as their number one. Britton Brown is an 87. That's crazy to me. Some of these guys you look at and you're like, why did these guys get these kind of cards? But I mean, Dave Casper, 91 tight end. He's been a problem playing him. I've played him a couple of times. Derek Johnson, 90 at the middle linebacker. Chandler Jones is a 90 at right end. So, and then you also got Warren Sapp was released as well. So, as of right now, if we're looking at it, your top teams for theme team: Patriots, Raiders, and then there's a bunch of 85: Saints, Rams, Ravens, 49ers, Browns, even the Browns. So
I went with the
49ers.
I went with the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean the team that they got is pretty solid. So I don't blame you on that. I haven't really started a theme team yet. I haven't gotten to that point. I eventually will, but right now just trying to get some coins by winning games and whatnot. But I am a 3-time Super Bowl champ so far, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty happy about that. With an 86 Justin Herbert, so you can't beat that.
Not bad.
Yeah. So fantasy football, real quick. Who are you replacing Dak Prescott with?
Right now, the options on your waiver wire are currently Carson Wentz and Mariota. I'm a fan of both. I think Carson Wentz is good this week. Just this is more of a short-term fill-in right now. I think both of these players are. I think Mariota, due to the fact of his history with injuries, and Carson Wentz, a great week one he had against the Jacksonville team that we all know isn't too intimidating. And obviously Mariota played a really good Saints team and found a way, because of his floor with his rushing yards. But he's got to be more careful because we've seen this Zach before. Again, like I said, I have not seen Mariota play in a Week 3 game in a very long time. We'll see if I could, break that streak. But he's definitely one of my favorites to fill in Dak Prescott, at least on the on a short-term answer. Another option I like, too, and he's actually getting eligibility from the quarterback position, is Taysom Hill. I mean, I've seen some people use him because he's quarterback / tight end. So a lot of people using for tight end purposes. And I know Kamara's deal with injuries. I think Ingram's not even going to be playing this week. You're looking at a guy who might be running the football as a primary running back, especially in the red zone. Not your ideal quarterback situation, probably no pass yards, but if you get 85 yards and a touchdown out of your quarterback, you're looking at somewhere along the lines of a 14, 15-point week. Add a couple of catches to that, full point PPR. It definitely takes a good spot in your quarterback position. Try to get you a 20.
So there's a couple of running back injuries as well. You had Elijah Mitchell. You had Kamara is questionable. There's a bunch of guys. Who were you looking for to pull off your waiver wire to fill in for these guys? Because who knows what's going to happen with Elijah Mitchell? You don't know how long he's going to be out really for.
Well, I've seen some options. Jeff Wilson, again, is probably the guy you should have had on your squad. I understand not having him due to the fact that I've seen this guy get replaced a couple of times. And unfortunately, it's just the way it is. It's what happens. You end up, you got to cover these guys. But Jeff Wilson gets hurt all the time. So it's a very difficult situation. Jeff Wilson's the short-term answer. Guys I like, as a flyer, especially in PPR, Rex Burkhead. And that, maybe it's tough. The running back position has been really filled up like usual. I think even Rex Burkhead would probably not be available in a lot of your leagues.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm thinking tough. Maybe like Dontrell Hilliard for that's what I'm really liking long term. If you're able to add this guy to your roster, it's a good add. He's a solid play with Derrick Henry, and without Derrick Henry in the lineup, he turns into a top 5 back. So he's definitely an ideal play. He's this year's Madison. Barring an injury from Derrick Henry, who is turning 33 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, the rankings going into week 2, Josh Allen, the number 1 quarterback, Jalen Hurts, the number 2. Then we go to running back. We got, if it actually changes, it's not coming up. Oh, of course, I have to, have a subscription for this goddamn website. So we're going to get away from that. But yeah, these guys with the running back position, like you were saying, we said it going into our draft prep. If you don't get those top running backs early and then, and then like a decent backup, the next round, you're in trouble. And now like guys that had Elijah Mitchell, which I thought was a great pickup, you're a little worried now. You're definitely like, all right, what's going to happen now? Because everybody on the bench, or the guys that aren't on teams, you're not going to expect much from them. So that's my issue.
Well, it's one of those situations where, I've seen teams ending up with teams ended up with Elijah Mitchell, T. Higgins, and Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. It's always been a part of fantasy football. The main aspect of that is that you just need to make sure when you're drafting to always have handcuffs, to always have backup options. I mean, if you're going to draft someone like T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, it wouldn't hurt to grab a Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
I personally have Keenan Allen in the league. I also had Joshua Palmer, who I had to start. Got lucky with a touchdown late in that game. But that's why you get guys like that, as fill-ins, quick answers to your injuries.
Yeah.
And you just try to build from that and keep moving. It's a long football season. You're going to find an injury to deal with, whether it's even a small one like Justin Herbert, who's came back in and now he's hurting, but he does have a week and a half to prepare for next week. It's a grind, fantasy football. That's what makes it so fun. That's what makes it so competitive. And anyone can win.
Yeah.
You're really trying to dodge that injury bug. And if you don't dodge it, you got to make sure you have the answers for it. And, for me personally, if I had Keenan Allen or Mike Williams in a league, I was adding Joshua Palmer. I was adding Tyler Boyd. I mean, remember, these are powerful offenses. So you want pieces in those offenses.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that was definitely the ideal thing to do. I mean, it's not just with running backs. You could do with wide receivers as well. You just got to make sure to get those handcuffs so that when you do get an injury coming your way, you're able to just adjust accordingly and keep moving forward.
Yeah, so now I found a actual free website that actually has the rankings, and they have Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and then Saquon Barkley. Now, my question with this, and I didn't even think of it prior to the to the draft and everything, but Why was Austin Eckler going so early?
On the standpoint that he just catches a lot of passes from Justin Herbert. He did it last year. He had 20 touchdowns last season. From looking at Thursday night, you saw Sony Michel taking a lot of burn in the red zone, which was definitely alarming for a lot of Eckler fans.
Yeah.
But what makes Eckler special is that a game like that, with a game plan like that, he still found a way to get 18 points in a full point PPR, and that's what makes him a difference maker. The guy rushes for 30 yards a game, catches for 50 yards, and it winds up being about 9 catches in the process.
Yeah.
It's what he does. He gets 100 yards a game, whether it's a catch or a run, and he usually tries to add a touchdown. You talk to the Chargers right now. They didn't play Eckler as much as they wanted to, and they didn't win. So, obviously adjustments have to be made accordingly. Eckler is a special someone, but also someone who can get injured. And again, these teams leaning towards these multiple running backs is a mindset along the lines that we're trying to keep our running back healthy at this point because you know how it works. I mean, you've seen Elliott get hurt. I mean, I've seen a lot of running backs get hurt. Elijah Mitchell's already been hurt. I could promise you another one will probably happen this week.
Yeah.
Running backs holding on to the football so much and they're taking vicious hits. It's eventually going to happen, whether it's just, getting the wind knocked out of you. Yeah. So a very violent sport, NFL and football in general. But, obviously it's part of the game. It's what makes the game so special. And, it's actually a big contributor in fantasy football. You talk to anyone, injuries are a significant part of fantasy football. And you got to find a way to just get around those and, grind the whole season and find a way to win it all.
All right, so wide receivers rankings, Cooper Kupp, Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson. And then you have tight ends, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts. And then defenses, well, this is kickers. So kickers, Justin Tucker, Tyler Bass, and Matt Gay. And then defenses, Buffalo Bills, 49ers, and the Broncos. So it's
very impressive. I think another team up there could have been the Pittsburgh Steelers after what they did week 1
number 6
against the Bengals.
Yeah.
Losing TJ Watt is the reason why they're down to number 6, so they'd probably be the clear-cut number 1 right now.
Yeah. All right, so that will do it for running up the score. But before we get out of here, we're going to have a nice little interview with TrizztheRipper from Backyard Break. So we're going to take Kevin here, and we're going to get him out of here. And we're going to replace him with TrizztheRipper, the hottest hands in the hobby. So we haven't had a guest on the podcast in a very long time, and with us revamping the show, there was one person I knew I wanted to bring on first. We have the hottest hands in the hobby, the creator of the Positivity Palace, one half of the Logo Bros. I'm excited to say we got TrizztheRipper from Backyard Breaks on the podcast today. What's going on, dude?
Thank you, man. What an intro. Honestly, I feel like I'm not even deserving of all that, but listen, I'll take it, dude. I'm just a kid ripping sports cards, bro. But all that sounded real. That sounded good.
Good. Good. I wanted to.
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I got a stream tonight, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
And we got a big event on Sunday. We're doing mystery packs with our guy Jay Hicks, so I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
But no, man, I'm good. How are you? How are things?
Getting there. Everything. It's nice that we revamped the podcast because we really started getting into sports cards. So I was like, you know what better way to really revamp this podcast to add that. Even Derek Jeter's getting into the hobby. So it's like,
dude,
business is booming.
Yes, it is. It's a good time for the hobby.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, dude, Derek Jeter jumping in by starting a grading company. I mean, out of nowhere.
I know. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because, we have a bunch of vaults. There's a couple of, obviously there's a lot of grading companies. Where do you think Derek Jeter fits in that? Like, where do you, with his vault and, his grading service?
So my first thing is I like that he's taking that approach to entering the hobby. I think it's a cool way of hopping in. And I think with his notoriety, he'll be able to get a little bit of legitimacy already coming out the gate for the company, which is obviously, in my opinion, the biggest barrier to entry for a service like grading, right? Because you want it to be trustable.
Absolutely.
For me, that's one of the things that I have a love-hate relationship with it, right? Because if you send a card to PSA, it could be the most perfectly centered, perfect card you've ever seen in your entire life, and it could get an 8. And it could be, the most off-centered card with a dimple on the surface, and it could get a 10.
Yeah.
So I think that like variability is cool for PSA because it creates it creates the market. You need to have 9s, you need to have 8s. You can't have a million 10s walking around of every single card, or else the market on it's just going to be completely torched. And same thing with 9, same thing with everything. So that's a little bit of my thought process on grading in general. Coming back to Jeter, I think if the grading is accurate, I think that's what a lot of the industry is missing.
Yeah.
I think Beckett does a little better job of that, but I think if the grading's accurate with his name behind it, I like the look of the slabs, which is another huge part of it too, right?
Yeah.
You got to like what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think he could do good things. I think he could definitely do good things. And again, in my opinion, hobby in general, guys like Derek Jeter becoming a part of it are just great news for hobbyists at large. Just again, legitimacy for the hobby, let alone his company.
Absolutely. So now, before we get into deeper stuff in the hobby, how did you get into the hobby?
So I love telling this story. So I was going to go to law school. I had like a 75% scholarship to UF for law.
Nice.
And I got deferred acceptance, so I had to wait a year to get in.
Okay.
So in that year, meantime, my parents, myself, obvious thought process is get a job at a law office, get a little opportunity, you know what I mean? Get a little experience. And I'm on my way home, having just gotten off the phone with like a prominent patent attorney in South Florida to get an internship. I was going to send him a formal email, whatever. And Grant Telford calls me. He was my pledge brother.
Okay.
We went to FSU together. We were pledge brothers. He calls me, goes, he's just catching up. And then he's like, what are you doing for the summer for work in the meantime? I was like, I think I'm going to get a job at a law office. I'm on my way to write the email. He goes, what if I told you I have a job, you'll make at least $50 an hour, you can work on your own time, and you'll have a good time doing it. What do you say? I said, okay, what are you talking about? Because I hadn't even seen him posting card stuff yet.
Yeah.
I had just seen the Backyard Athlete. If anybody knows, you know about the Frisbees.
Yeah, that's how I started following them, was through like the little Frisbee thing. I was like, wow. And when I ended up, learning more about, sports cards, I started, looking at Backyard, and I was like, wait, why do I recognize this guy? And that's how it...
It's amazing that you've been following since the Frisbees, because not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah.
But yes, so it started off with the Frisbees. That's all I knew that was happening with him. And I would talk to him about it all the time, because I'm the kind of person where I just find all of that interesting. If there's money floating around anything obscure, I find it interesting. You know what I mean? I want to know what's going on. So with the Frisbees, he was keeping me up to date on like his markup and how much he was getting it at. He had me like in on the whole business model essentially. So I was following him with that. And then he calls me, he's like, I'm doing this card thing now. I was like, okay. He's like, look, even if you don't want to do it, just come in and watch me do it to see if you're interested. And I was like, all right, fine. So I drive to Boca. We're in this little garage, literally a garage. And it's just him doing what we do right now, screaming at the phone. And at the time, dude, even Grant, as big as he is now and as big as some of the breaks have become with us, was ripping legacy packs, like just packing out legacy boxes.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what that means for like non-card hobby enthusiasts, rather than selling multiple boxes at once, you take a single box that has 2 autographs in it, and you essentially pack it out one by one of the 20 packs, and people are gambling to try and hit one of the 2 autographs.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's packing it out. And he's like, all right, you've seen me do it. What do you think? I was like, I mean, it seems easy enough. He's like, just come in and try it. You'll make good money. Worst case scenario, I'll pay $300 myself just for coming in. I was like, okay, fine. What do I have to lose?
Exactly.
I come in, I rip packs. I sell it was the craziest thing. I sold a Panini 1-in-1. And at the time, that was a huge box. You know what I mean? We're packing out $20 packs. Some dude comes in, buys a $500, $600 Panini 1. And a Panini 1 football from 2020.
Yeah.
And I was just, I think I pulled a Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, wow.
And I was just amazed that someone spent that much money on a box of sports cards, let alone one card.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, wow, like what's going on here? So I get home, I explain it all to my parents, and they like their first thought is this a scam? Like, is this some sort, you know what I mean? It's like so crazy for them to wrap their head around a $500 box. They're like, what if it was one of them bidding on the box, you know, from one of their accounts to convince you that this is legit? And I was like, I don't think Brant's like that though. Lo and behold, I start doing this. And mind you, dude, I did not know who Justin Fields was prior to ripping sports cards. And that's the craziest thing for a lot of people that I talk to about this to wrap their head around. I was learning on the fly. I didn't know.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I have a good grip. You know what I mean? On college, professional, obviously. I know what I'm talking about now, but it took 2 years of learning. But that's how I started, man.
That's an awesome...
And before I finish, the line Grant used was, and I quote, because I can't make this up, and this is the most Grant thing ever, it's so easy, a monkey could do it. That was how he described breaking sports cards.
That's definitely Grant. That definitely seems like it'd be coming out of Grant. I mean, that's an amazing story because, you know, to be totally honest with you, I collected when I was younger. You know, I'm 32 now. So, like, when I was younger, it was like, oh, I had a binder of just cards, and I would always go to the card store, get a pack here, there, whatever. But it was never in, you know, collectible type of form. And, you know, I remember hearing Gary Vee, like, right before the pandemic say, oh, you know what, I'm going to start investing in sports cards again. So I was like, maybe let me just, you know, pull out the binder and see what I got. I'm looking them up on eBay, dollar card here, dollar card there. So I just gave up on it. I was like, whatever. And then my buddy, who also is my co-host on the podcast, he's like, listen, he's like, I need your editing skills for like video and everything. I want to get into sports cards. So I'm like, all right. So I sat down, knew nothing about the cards, nothing. Like, you know, obviously I know the athletes. So, you know, I'm looking at cards. And that's the craziest thing about the hobby is that you really can't go by, you know, the great players, you know, at any position. It's literally the hype of rookies or, you know, whatnot. So, you know, I remember sitting there and they're breaking a box. I forget what it was. And they pulled a card. I was like, oh, wow, that's great. Oh, actually, you know what? 2013 Luminance. And we pulled a DeAndre Hopkins rookie card. I was like, holy crap, this is great. And we look it up on eBay, and it was $20. And I was
about to say, like, probably like 25.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is up with this? So that's just the craziest thing to me, you know, in terms of the hobby is that, you know, guys that aren't even proven are going for the craziest prices compared to the guys that are proven. And it's like, you know, $20 here, $20 there. You know, it's crazy. But how do you think that Fanatics, this whole thing with Fanatics, how do you think that's going to change the hobby? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it depends on the position you're in the hobby. Okay. I think, look, all of it's speculation, right? We don't know what exactly it is they're going to do. I've heard Michael Rubin speak a couple of times, and I like what he has to say. I mean, the one thing that I saw all over social media was that he was saying, like, let's get rid of redemptions, which I love. Awesome. And for those of you who don't know what redemptions are, because how familiar is your podcast with sports cards?
You know, we just started introducing them to it. I mean, if you want, you can kind of give a broad, you know, definition on breaking, you know, because I kind of did.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, like not many, like, because we started out as a sports podcast. Then it just got way too much to like really focus in on every sport. And if we're doing it once a week, to have, you know, baseball playing every day, basketball playing every day, it was just hard to keep up, you know, for a 1 day a week podcast. So we just transitioned to all football because that was the one thing that we knew and we were the best at talking about. So so the fact that like we just literally, I think we got 2 or 3 podcasts in where we spoke about sports cards. So I mean, if you want to give a, you know, a broad definition of breaking and then get into, you know, Fanatics and all that, you can.
Sure. So breaking is my job. That's what I do. And to describe it simply, the average break for me, or breaking in general, is taking several boxes. It could be a single box, but usually several boxes of sports cards from either, different sports. So I could do the brand new year of basketball with Kate Cunningham rookies, or I could do the brand new year of football with Trevor Lawrence rookies and put one of each of those boxes in a break. And then I auction off teams from $1 is what we do on Whatnot. But, sometimes people sell teams at fixed prices. But basically, you purchase a team rather than the box, and every player from that team goes to you. So if I have the Jaguars in a break, every Trevor Lawrence card is coming to me, whether it's $100,000 or $1. And I feel like that's, that covers it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
More or less.
Yeah.
And Fanatics, as you all may know, is a sports, wear company, among many other things, a sports conglomerate essentially at this point.
Yeah.
And they've purchased the rights to sports cards from Panini, who currently has it, for NFL, NBA, and MLB rights. So they're going to be selling sports cards soon, and they're going to change the industry. There's the overview.
Yeah.
So Josh Luber is the creative director of the sports card, something like that.
He changed his job title, from the beginning of that. But yeah, that's
right.
I think
his job title seems to be very flexible.
Yeah.
But he was essentially the one who founded StockX, which is the current sneaker marketplace. So sneakers, obviously, a lot of people know, like vintage Jordans, all that kind of stuff, sell for a lot of money. StockX is the marketplace for it, right?
Yeah.
I think what Fanatics is going to do, their two biggest moves, in my opinion, that are really going to change the game for the better for everyone, is they're going to create a marketplace for cards, just like there's a marketplace for StockX. Because right now, I think the only other company that's really doing that is Golden, who's leading the way, at least, in that. And I think Fanatics is going to create a marketplace for all cards, not just the high end. Like Golden is I think Golden's trying to trickle down and start high and expand into everything.
Okay.
But I think Fanatics is going to start from the ground, which will be really good for the average hobbyist. And the other thing that they're going to do is make a shift towards culture cards, which I'm super, super excited about for the future of cards in general, not just sports cards, because you already saw it with the Jackass cards, which are selling really well.
Yeah.
And those were a Fanatics product and a Zero Cool, which is Luber's company, product. And I think they're going to start doing it with musical artists, pop culture figures like the Kardashians, because I don't know if you've seen, there's like a Kim Kardashian card from either Topps or something like that sells for crazy money. It's a Kim Kardashian auto. I wanted to buy it.
Oh, really?
Before the hype of, I'm a buyer into that. I think culture cards are going to blow up, and I think their original ones, like the Jackass, I have a few Jackass cards I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
And the ones like the Kim Kardashian auto, for example, or like there's a Jay-Z rookie card from Topps. I have that. I'm trying to buy the refractor version.
Okay.
But I think that's going to be a really cool, no one's talking about that, right? Because everyone's focused on sports. I think the culture cards are going to be a really, really fun shift. Like Gary V, for example, with his rhinoceros or whatever, the animals and all that. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
But I think Fanatics is going to do really good things in that department. I think Fanatics is going to favor the card breaking community rather than the distributors, right? Yeah. And part of the problem for me, at least, is I'm getting boxes at a pretty high price. So I have to sell them at said high price to make margins, right? Yeah. So we're not in the red. But that's because these distributors who know they're getting potentially phased out are trying to squeeze this game for everything they can right now.
Yeah.
And I understand that. They're trying to get their money's worth while they still can before they get out, because it doesn't look like they have a plan. A lot of them are trying to convert into breaking companies. Like We The Hobby was a distribution company.
Okay.
And now they're making a little bit of headway as a breaking company.
Yeah.
But that's why you're seeing this shift to so many breaking companies. And I wonder how many of them are really going to make it out.
Yeah.
I think there's, a lot to be said about, again, how Fanatics is going to treat the breaking community and how they're going to try and bring boxes there. But I think it'll be good for the hobby too, because if they're favoring us, we're getting it at a lower price point. We can bring it to the customer at a lower price point.
Exactly.
The breaks become a little more cost effective, which right now they're expensive because wax is expensive.
Yeah.
Very.
Yes.
And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of positive change. I think Michael Rubin is a really smart guy. I don't think they're going to spend billions of dollars to acquire rights and not have a really good plan in place. So I'm excited. I think Fanatics will be really, really good for the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on the culture cards, I mean, even when we were at the National, they had the Stranger Things, and they were showing that stuff. So that's, that's interesting. And, the fact that you said that, that's, I could see that more, especially now, with Fanatics taking over. But in terms of, I guess, personal, like, who do you PC, in terms of, sports cards, at least?
My guys, my ultimate hold, Anthony Edwards. Okay. Buy him right now. I think he's going to be the guy.
Okay.
I know it's big talk. I think Luka is also going to be the guy. I mean, he's almost proven it at this point. He basically is already.
Yeah.
But we're going to see right now, and this is also why I'm buying Ant-Man so heavily, and a thing to think about with sports cards in general. The market and the hype around a player is very important. Their notoriety, their namesake, how familiar they are to the average person. Ant-Man was just a fantastic role in an Adam Sandler movie on Netflix. I'm sure everyone saw Hustle.
Yep.
He killed that, bro.
Yeah,
Kermit Wiltz was like a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, even the talking crap and everything, he was good.
It was believable, bro. Yeah. I hated him. I hated the character of Kermit, so he did a good job, So that got me all the more excited about the fact that I was already buying him, and I love his play. I think his play style is sustainable because he's not like John Morant's amazing, but I worry about his sustainability. Every time he lands from one of those crazy dunks, I'm looking at his ankles every time. Yep. It's all I can think about. I hope the best for him. I think he's could be a generational talent if he can sustain that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Anthony Edwards is my buy. That's my PC. I also really like Bones Highland for basketball. I also really like Davion Mitchell, super underrated two-way guard. Watch his defensive highlights. That's all you need to see, and you'll fall in love with the kid. And he's super cheap. That's why I love Davion Mitchell. He's so cheap. In terms of, in my opinion, his value. And then football, I have a few big Justin Herberts. Have to hold that kid.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, did you see some of those fourth down throws? He didn't win the game, but he's going against Patrick Mahomes. No one should fault themselves for losing against Patrick Mahomes.
Even with a fractured, rib, and it showed a lot. And I've liked Justin Herbert since he came into the league. I think he's going to be one of, if not the best quarterback in the league, within a year or two, if he's not already. The thing that, first of all, before I get to that, I'm going to guess, just by your PC, that your favorite sport is basketball.
That's correct.
Okay.
I love football, but I've been a diehard Miami Heat fan my whole life growing up. I played basketball my whole life growing up. That's where the heart lies.
Yeah, definitely. I figured that. And I know that you're a Dolphins fan. I know you're a Heat fan. So I was like, but I know that you just go by your breaks and, the way that you're talking. I knew basketball was your favorite sport. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay.
And I'm one of the guys that, everybody calls a front runner, but I'm not really a front runner because I'm a Cowboys and a Lakers fan. Now, the perfect way I put
you got to
this,
justify that Lakers fandom right now.
I am justifying it. So I am not in any way, shape, or form a LeBron James fan. I don't like LeBron at all. So that right there, I justify pretty well when it comes to the Lakers. I was always fascinated by Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was my guy. Obviously when I was younger, they were pretty good, especially when I started to was really watching sports. I mean, the 2000s, that team was ridiculous, between,
insane.
Kobe and Shaq, Robert Horry, Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, guys like that.
Can't forget Paul Gasol.
Exactly. And, that Kobe was just always my guy. So it was just, my dad was a Lakers fan, so he kind of passed it on to me because Showtime was huge when he was a kid. So it just, and with the Cowboys were good in the 90s, obviously. But my dad, like my grandfather never really watched sports. So when my dad watched football, it was always on Thanksgiving. So the Cowboys always played on Thanksgiving. So it just stuck. And, obviously when he was younger, they were good in the 70s, like the late 70s. Then they got really good in the 90s, obviously. And now I've become a bigger fan than my dad. So it's,
Right,
it's just
there
the
you go.
way. So, and I've always been a huge Tony Romo fan. Tony
Me
Romo
too.
was my guy, and I hated Dak for the first, year or two that he took over, Romo's spot, but that's not here nor there.
I'm a fan of Dak now. Let that go on the record. And
Okay.
I said it when we were doing our Hall of Fame break where, everyone was talking about divisional wins and everything.
Yeah.
I took the Cowboys this year out of the NFC East. Now, how is that looking after week one? Maybe not so good.
Yeah.
But I always am one of those guys, and everyone says it every year, but I'm one of those guys who's such a believer, and I fall into the trap of it's the Cowboys year. Like
I know.
Dak, Zeke, all of it. I always believe. Always. And I'm not even a fan.
Yeah. It's hard
So-
because they always look good on paper. And it's like, you know what? Dak is another year older. It's like he's just getting more. He's gotten better each year, and that was the one thing that I
For
liked
sure.
about Dak. But going back to cards. First of all, were you able to make this a full-time job?
Yes.
That's awesome.
For sure. Now, I can't. I'm very blessed, let me say, while I do mention that this is my full-time job, to have the backyard
Yeah.
as my segue into this world. Because, dude, Grant, all the credit due to Grant, Brochnick, 3 owners,
Yeah.
especially Grant, of just building this brand into what it's become, and such a juggernaut in this space of card breaking.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I came in and all the credit due also, while we're on the subject, to JMO,
Yeah.
because he's really the one who built the Backyard Rips account into what it's become. We're the biggest on the Whatnot app now.
Yeah.
And I will give him the credit for that. I don't deserve it. I was a great second fiddle to him for a really long time because I wasn't taking this as seriously as I should have. I didn't realize the potential of the cards, the breaks, all of it. I didn't buy in myself. I didn't fall in love with cards until about a year in.
Okay.
And now, I feel like everybody jokes around about it and all this stuff, the logo bro rivalry or whatever. But, more or less, it's me and JMO, running this thing now together.
Yeah.
But for a long time, it was him. And again, all credit due. But yes, that's why I'm able to make it my full-time job, because I have an audience ready to go, and I was able to step into that, I do my thing, but I give credit where it's due, and that's why.
Absolutely.
It's because of them.
I mean, just going into this, I was like, oh, maybe this is awesome. I love breaking the boxes. I love, just everything about it. It's that thrill that I don't know. I don't want to say competitiveness, but it's that thrill of getting ready to play a game or something like that. And that's
a rush.
Yeah. And I loved it. And that's why I really focused in on it now, hopefully starting up, Ruts breaks and stuff like that. But, obviously the prices are crazy, as you said before. That's what's keeping a lot of, people from getting into breaking and stuff like that. So they have to get into the breaks and whatnot. But, just overall, I admire everything that you guys have done over there at Backyard. I mean, just everything that you guys deal with, all the haters, everybody's got haters, but if you got haters, that means you're doing something good. So
Exactly.
That's why I don't listen to anything that anybody else says.
Any of the noise.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But, I was able to meet you at the National. You guys, everybody at Backyard was awesome. The party, the UFC watch party that we went to, that was, you guys are a lot of fun. I will say, Grant and Nikki and all their nut jobs.
Characters.
And I loved it. And it was just funny because, my dad knows nothing about sports cards, and I brought him with me to the show, and he was looking and I mean, I felt like I had to keep lifting up his jaw, from all the prices, at every, table. It was crazy. And I just wanted to say that, I appreciate you guys in every single way.
Of course, man.
But before we end this, I want to know, what is your favorite product to rip in a break, and then I'll ask you what your favorite product is to dome for yourself.
Okay. Damn. First off, let me just say I'm already upset that you said you're going to end this after these questions, because I could have sat here talking to you all day, honestly. I'm ready to come back whenever.
All right, cool.
Whenever you'll have me, I'm ready.
Perfect.
I love this. Because honestly, dude, I just love talking about the hobby. Cards in general.
I mean, it's
fun. My girlfriend doesn't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't understand doesn't want to hear it either.
Yeah.
So being able to voice out opinions and stuff about this is just great. But anyway, favorite product to dome person, I can answer first. Way easier. Contenders basketball, or Contenders football. But for me personally, Contenders basketball. I'm a bigger fan.
Yeah.
I love the cracked ice hunt out of Contenders. It's such a fair price point, in my opinion, for the comps on what those cracked ice cards go for. And, dude, there's so many great rookies to hit out of this class, especially this year. Alperen Sengun is starting to look like he could have some sort of a breakout at his position. Mobley, Cade, Giddey. I mean, I can keep going. Scotty,
Yeah.
So that's my favorite to break personally. I have a couple Bones Highland and Davion Mitchell cracked ices that I'm proud of. And then in breaks, dude, I would have to say National Treasures football. It's just, for me, I like hitting cards that change people's lives.
Yeah.
That's the biggest fun for me out of this job, is being able to actually affect someone's whole life.
Yeah, absolutely.
By just opening one of these boxes. And National Treasures provides that opportunity. The ceiling's just so high, You hit a Trevor True RPA and it's probably what, 30 grand?
Yeah.
Like that.
And the people that don't know anything really about the hobby, they're like, how is a piece of cardboard that much money? And it is really hard to explain, because you're like, I don't know how to justify the price tag for that, but it's the hype.
Here's how I justify, and here's the easiest way. You ask them, how long have sports cards been around? Because your grandpa was probably collecting sports cards.
Yes.
Now think about, a Tom Brady rookie card, right? This is how I always put it in perspective. I say, think about cards and how long they've been around. Now think about a Tom Brady rookie card. Now that everyone's agreeing he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right? How much do you think that would be worth? And they're like, oh, that'd probably be worth a good amount of money. And I was like, okay. When people are buying these newer age cards, they're realizing that more money's flooding into the market, which is why the prices on these rookie cards are going up. And they're realizing that some of these young kids could be the next Brady. You don't know, but you're hoping and praying, right? That Trevor Lawrence becomes this generational talent. He doesn't even need to be the next Brady, the next Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And
his card of cards out of National Treasures, when all this money is now flooded into the market for years and years and years, right? Because this is 20 years down the line. How much is that going to be worth?
Yeah, it's true.
Who knows?
That's
true. How I justify it. That's my simple, script.
Yeah.
For running them through it.
And to me, it's crazy that even Pat Mahomes, stock was down leading into this season. I was like, I don't know why. I know he lost Tyreek Hill and he went to your team, but
he's the guy to chase Brady.
Yeah, and that's why I was just like, I was dumbfounded that his stock was down. And I even bought a couple of his cards, nothing crazy, but I was like, I'm definitely going to, if they're down now,
you're gonna make money.
Exactly. And I was like, I can't, I can't not buy this right now.
It's essentially like buying blue chip stock.
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and at this point, it's, in my opinion, established Herbert and Burrow.
Yeah.
Are essentially blue chip stocks. These are the guys that are going to be running the league. And if the sports card market keeps going, they should increase in value overall from where they are right now. It's like the stock market. It's always going up.
Yeah.
So if you get in when you're young and you buy those blue chips, you buy into the market, you'll make money by the time you're 40, 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the same thing.
I even before the season started, I started buying into Trey Lance. I'm still on the fence now because now I'm like, I don't know. Because at first I was like, the fact that he had the spot, he was the starter way before the preseason started. I was like, this is, all right. They see a lot in him. This is great. The 49ers have a Super Bowl type roster. I was like, this is it. This is the guy. And then when they restructured that contract for Jimmy G, I was like, I don't know. That made me like question it. So now I'm like,
low lack of faith from the Niners.
Yeah, I was like, if they are lacking faith, then what am I supposed to do? I have money in on him, so I'm like, but it's crazy, and that's kind of what makes it's kind of a gamble, and as much as you don't want to advertise gambling. I mean, sports gambling is the biggest thing, especially now that, especially in New York where I live, they made it legal, and I was like, this is awesome. Last year I was betting on everything. And sports cards gave me that kind of, that feeling too, but also having that physical, I guess, trophy for that, and that's kind of what I liked about it. But again, before we get out of here, who is your investment? Now, I figured Anthony Edwards is your investment in the NBA. Who's the guy that you're really, really going heavy on? I think you said Herbert before, but is there anybody else that you're looking into?
So here's what I'll say, right? Because there's, like I was saying, there's blue chip stock.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and Herbert are my blue chip stocks. Yeah. I'm throwing as much of my portfolio on them as I can, as much as the bank allows. Underrated guys who I think could make a splash and are not going for what they could be right now. In the NBA, Bones Highland, to me, is a guy with an astronomical amount of potential, Curry-style gameplay, and he loves the three ball.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good team around him. If he stays in Denver with Jokic, if they can make Jamal Murray work with him somehow, I'm not sure how that will work. But if they could, maybe they offload Murray and pick up some pieces to surround him.
Yeah.
For example, I think he has a lot of potential. And Denver's a big enough market where he'll be relevant should he start popping off.
Yeah.
So that's my very good buy low candidate because he's relatively inexpensive compared to other players from his class. And he's so young. And in football, receivers are just it's a lot of people don't know this, and you obviously have experience in the hobby, so you'll know. Skill positions are not as lucrative as the quarterback. Running back, wide receiver, just not as expensive.
Yeah.
You don't have as much boom potential. But that being said, I love Jalen Waddle, man. I really do. I'm biased, but I got a lot of money in Jalen Waddle in terms of sports cards. I just think he's going to be a force for years. I think he's so quick, and his short route slant catches that everyone knocks off are just such a sustainable, important part of a football game that every quarterback needs. And I think no matter whether it's Tua, no matter whether it's anybody, his quickness off the line is just going to make him an asset to any team he's on for years to come. So I think he'll be a fun hold to see how a receiver who does well, which I think I'm fairly positive he will, how that holds value moving forward.
Well, that's the one thing with that team. Tua is known for his accuracy. That's the one thing. And, he's not really that great at the deep ball. So that short pass, that slant, that's, where he's going to live. That's where he's going to live. And I do like that. I like that a lot. And especially that, this past draft class, you're not really seeing that much hype. Obviously, because there's really not that many quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett is really the one guy that, everybody's talking about. Because he really, I think out of everybody, he has the chance to start sooner than like Malik Willis or any of those guys.
For sure.
So, I honestly, because of that, I kind of feel like that skill position, the veterans and, the 1-year vets, and I feel like those guys may even see an uptick because people are going to start, buying into them because there's really no quarterback to chase, other than Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, guys like that. So, right. And this past week we really saw none of those hype guys really played that well. So that was the interesting thing. But yeah, I mean, I like that Jalen Waddle pick, and I think people should really look into him. And then maybe you'll see an uptick in that. And
yeah, hopefully, man. I'm trying to push the market, man. Go buy Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, exactly.
No, go ahead.
The one guy, and I just said it because we just recorded the podcast prior to this. I just said Sky Moore is my sneaky kind of pick, to start getting an uptick in, because I feel like with Mahomes, that team around him, I feel like I don't want to say he's going to be a Tyreek Hill type of wide receiver, but I think he has the role. Yeah, and I think he has that potential to be that game changer at like a slot position. And I feel like not many people are talking about Sky Moore because of
not at all.
All the other wide receivers that were in that draft class, because that was a wide receiver heavy draft class. So that's my guy that I was looking into.
Okay,
so.
Maybe I'll buy a little Sky Moore slab once that's out.
Yeah, right. But that's really it. You want to plug your Instagram and whatnot. Sure. And what?
Sure. My Instagram is at TrizztheRipper. I am the founder of the Positive Palace, along with all the guys that are in there with me every day, you included. I rip on Backyard Rips is the account. It's from the app Whatnot, and I rip almost every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday night. Schedule may vary, and other than that, I'm in the daytime sometime. But come check me out. Come get into a break. Come watch and learn about the hobby. I talk about stuff like this all the time, so feel free to come in there and learn too.
Nice. Now, quickly,
sure.
Where did Triz come from?
Oh man, so this is sort of embarrassing. My friend group from back home in high school, I had a group chat. Group chat name was Family Trees. Maybe you could insinuate where that comes from. Yeah. Not going to clarify.
Yeah.
Group chat name is Family Trees. And you know how it is in high school, bro. You're also young. Everybody has like stupid sayings and stupid jokes when you're in high school, whatever. Stupid things catch fire. And saying is at the end of everything just caught on fire. Like instead of pass me like the remote, like pass me the Riz. It's so dumb,
okay.
But it caught on.
Yeah.
So Family Trees became Famatriz, one word.
Okay.
And then as a joke, we all changed our Instagram names to like Triz something.
Okay.
So someone was like Triz Ben, and I was like Triz the Kid.
Okay.
And it stuck around. And I got back up to college because it was in college when we changed our names as the joke. All my boys were like, yo, Triz. They thought it was so funny. So it just stuck with me, and I can't leave it now. So here we are.
Nice. Well, that is Triz the Ripper. I was very excited to get him on the pod. And hopefully it's not his last time on. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
But that will do it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Be breezy.
Be breezy.
And it is all over. You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on sports radio.